Welcome to Amazing Indiana Music Stories.
Art Adams, well, it's actually Arthur, but I don't have a middle name, and people ask me if Art Adams is a stage name, and I said, no, that's my real name. Well, I want to thank you, Katie, for asking me to be here to do this, and I'm proud of everything you're doing here. It looks like it's finally doing something for the Indiana musicians finally, so place looks pretty good, and I've got a bunch of stuff that I'll be giving you to post up here. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, we're
it.
so glad you're here. So Art, so you're known for rockabilly. We want to know, what is rockabilly? How would you define it?
Well, what in my personal opinion, what they're calling rockabilly today is not what I call original rockabilly, because today they've got a lot of things thrown in it that, you know, like they're using, you know, like I don't know, devil type stuff. But when I started playing, I started out playing strictly country, and then it just kind of evolved into rockabilly. And when I recorded back in 1959 and 1960, we really weren't calling it rockabilly. The first song that I heard myself that I thought was up-tempo, close to, was Marty Robbins. He was doing a couple songs that's all. First time I heard "That's All Right, Mama" was from Marty Robbins, a country singer. Well, when I recorded, we had "She Don't Live Here No More" is a straight, in my opinion, straight up rockabilly song, and but it's got a shuffle type beat. Mike can tell you that. And "Dancing Dial" is I'd consider straight rockabilly. "She Don't Live Here No More" got wrote up in the rhythm and blues section in Billboard magazine, so it's kind of rhythm and blues, and then what I think they took rockabilly, the word rockabilly, and kind of trashed it to some extent. You know, that's my opinion, because when I was young and we were doing it, it was good, clean music. And it didn't have all this stuff that they're throwing in now, like the devil worship stuff and all that. That's got nothing to do with good music. And then a lot of the young rockabilly guys that I've met since I got back in, you know, that recorded, we weren't involved in that stuff.
Okay. And so now you're in the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and how does that?
How did it come about?
How did it come about? What's that mean to you?
Well, I played music from the time I was young in the clubs, and then I got married, and then I went to Korea for 20 months. And then when I got home, I got back into music. Well, I was working for ARA Services. I was a general manager there, and playing it, you know, 3 nights a week. But I decided, me and a couple other guys decided to go in business for ourselves. So then I started. I needed the money, so I started working 6 nights a week in the clubs. Well, what happened in 1987, I give up music totally, just quit. And through the years, I don't remember which year, but my 12-year-old son one day told me, said, "Dad, they're playing your song on whatever that show that kids watch, but it wasn't my song. It was the Stray Cats doing "Rock This Town," which. So what happened was one day, one Saturday morning, I got a phone call, and it was a guy from Germany, and I can't remember his name, but he wanted to come over and talk to me. So he come over and met. We sat down and talked, and so I had a lot of records back then. So he offered me $20 a piece for them, which I thought, boy, well, that's a lot of money, you know. I used to just use them for frisbees. So anyway, he started telling me about, you know, getting back into music, and then I had a guy from Texas that contacted me. He gave me one of those Colonel Parker stories, and he had me to go out to the. My friend Larry Goshen was having one of those get-togethers that were selling stuff. So we went out there, and he talked me into going. So I go out there, and there's a bunch of teenage girls, and they were playing my song, Dancing Doll. These girls were saying, no, they was playing my song, Rock Crazy Baby. These girls were saying, oh, the Stray Cats. And they said, no, it's the guy right here, you know. So anyway, that didn't go too much anymore. So I get a letter from a guy in Canada, a little town called Stavry, Canada, and he sent me a cassette to do a bio on. And so I took the letter. I called Larry Goshen up, and I took the letter over to him, and I wanted to find out if he thought the letter was legitimate or not, because it didn't sound like all these other fast talkers had contacted me. So Larry said, well, Art, look, he said, let me show you a book what your records are selling for. And I'd never seen it, so he showed me the book and all that. So it had his phone number on there, and his name was Steve Kellerman. So I thought, well, I'll call him. So I called him. I called up, and his mother answered the phone, and she started hollering, it's him, it's him, it's him. So anyway, we talked back and forth on the phone for a little bit. One night about 10 o'clock our time, he calls me up and said, Art, you have a computer? And I said, yeah, I've got one, Steve, but I don't know how to operate it. He said, well, go to this here, tell me what to go to. You're in the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. So Steve Kellerman, the guy who wrote me the letter for Stavry, Canada, put me in the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. So I sent him some pictures, and he did the write-up and stuff. Was all there. So, make a long story short, I have visited his home and played shows 3 different times, and stayed with his mom and dad. And his dad's passed away now, but I did several shows, and he was just a young guy, but he knew all about me, plus a lot of other rockabilly. So that's how I got in the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. So since I was inducted into the Rockabilly Hall of Fame, I got to know the curator, Bob Timmers, who also has passed away. So Bob put a big show together up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I was Mike was there. We were the last band, I don't know, but there was 2 or 3 bands ahead of us. The guy that recorded Muleskin and the Blues, not Bill Moreau, but Jim somebody. But anyway, people tell us that it's a good thing you guys played last because nobody could have followed you. Now, we got a video of that. So from that point on, when I met Bob Timmers, he finally gave me a certificate. What do you call those things? That I got it in. You can have it. I mean, I'll get my inductee into the Rockabilly Hall of Fame, which is dated later than when Steve actually put me in the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. So that's how I got into Rockabilly Hall. Now, Bob Timmers got to know me real well, so he would feature me more than one time for a whole week on the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. I suppose, to put it without being, I didn't try to push, I didn't, so that's why I just try to be me, that's why people, I think, like me. And I think that's why Bob Timmers liked me. And he would, I don't know how many different times he featured me for a whole week on Rockabilly Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, Bob has passed away now, and I don't know I guess the Rockabilly Hall of Fame name's out there, but I don't know what's going on with it. So that's how I got the Rockabilly Hall of Fame.
Very good, very good. So you've been talking about some of your recordings, and I was wondering if you could tell us about some of those. You had 2 45s in the late 1950s. Can you tell us about the significance of those? You've got some compilation albums where there's like box sets out there.
Well, unbeknownst to me, of course, I was out of music for over 30 years. So in the meantime, my music, unbeknownst to me, was getting real popular with the rockabilly scene. The rockabilly, way I understand it, was starting to come on, and then I've been told by various different people that we played Dancing Down, Rock Crazy Baby every night at the clubs in England. And since I got back into music, I don't know how I've done all this, but I actually been to England 8 times. And I played Hemsby, which is one of the biggest shows over there, 6 times. And I was going to play it another time, one more, but then the couple that ran it, she passed away, and I don't know what happened to him. But anyway, I played all the big festivals in England. I played Hemsby, Americana, Wildest Cats, and I've also played a club called a Red Rose Club in London, and then I played the Rockers Reunion, which is where all the Teddies go. These guys back then, which I didn't know anything about, is they called them Teddies, and they wore these long tail coats and that. So the Rockers Reunion is all about the Teddies, and that's what they call themselves. So they're all in the rockabilly. And there was a guy and his wife was heavy into the rockabilly scene, called Dan Coffey, and his wife Faye. Well, the first time I went to play Hemsby, I met Dan, and he, because he knew all about me, the records, but of course I didn't know anything about him. So he actually passed away now too. But he cried when I left. Because they knew Jerry Lee Lewis really well, and they knew all. So, make a long story short, I guess my music had got real popular. It had been, talking about compilations, it's been comped so many times, and I have the first time I played Hemsby was in 2003. That was after my first show getting back into music was Vegas, and I didn't know anything about it, but a guy called me, Tom England called me on the phone, and we hassled and talked and hassled, and you want to hear the story?
Of course.
So he said, well, he offered me some kind of pitted money, that I wouldn't have walked around the street for, but so he said, well, we got as a kid, I always wanted to play Vegas, so he said, I got a hard and fast rule. I said, what's that? He said, all you old rockabilly. I said, wait a minute. I mean, that's what he has to use my house band. So I said, I have a hard and fast story too. If I can't bring my own guys, I'm not coming. So he hung up. Well, a couple hours later, he called back. And we asked, I said, now there's another thing about the money too, And so I said, I need a limo to pick us up. I need free airfare for all the guys that I'm going to bring. And I need hotel rooms for all of them. Oh, he said, I can't do that. So anyway, I believe he hung up again, so he called me right back. So he finally agreed that I would bring my own guys, because I didn't know anything what was going on in the music industry. I had no idea at that time. I had virtually no idea what was going on with the rockabilly scene. So I called my friend Larry Gosses, which is a drummer, but and a guy that played saxophone for me, Paul Hutchison, and my friend, lifetime friend, which is still here, Bill Stewart, played guitar. So I called Bill. So Bill was living in Florida at the time. So we all piled in a car and met up with Bill in Florida and rehearsed. And his brother-in-law played bass, electric bass, which, I'm not an electric bass fan. Mike plays good electric bass, but I recorded, of course, with upright bass. So we rehearsed, and we went to Vegas, and I was totally shocked. I mean, I was totally shocked. Tom Ingram thought he would pull a fast one on me, and they had I didn't know at the time, but upstairs in the hotel, they had partitions where they, of course, opened up, and I know about that because I used to have meetings in the vending business, where they had the top people play, or the bands play. But since I had my own people with me, band, he put me in the lounge where Sinatra and those people used to perform back in the early days. So what happened was, I'm not bragging, but I couldn't walk 5 feet to somebody who wanted to take a picture, wanted an autograph. And Larry Goshen had just wrote his first book, which I've got one to give you, and so he had a couple boxes of them. So he brought them over, and I was before I did my show, we sat at the autograph table, and people were bringing me my new CD that had just been released to sign. So I said, where are you getting these? Because I got CDs here. So they said upstairs. So I go upstairs. There sits Tom Ingram and a guy named Chatterbox selling my CDs. They had 4 boxes of them. And here's a story about Chatterbox. He runs the rave in England. That's the only one that I haven't played. He called me one night before I went to Vegas, talked for 30 minutes at least. He offered me $2,000 for me and $2,000 for Bill if I'd come and play the rave, and free hotel and all that. Well, in the meantime, I booked Hemsby, and he's the only one that sent me a contract. So I thought that I signed it. So when Chatterbox found out that I booked Hemsby, he calls me up and said, "Oh, I can't have you to rave if you're going to play Hemsby." And I said, "What's wrong with you guys?" So I found out later that the guy run Hemsby and Chatterbox and Ricky G, they all used to work together, so they had a big falling out. So anyway, so I've never played the rave because of that. So I told him, no big deal, So anyway, Tom England put me in the lounge. Well, it got so full that the fire marshal had to close and lock the door because all the people upstairs come downstairs to see me. They were there to basically to see, most of them was there to see me because, well, I didn't know that, but because my guest, like I said, I couldn't walk. I just, people wanted to do interviews with me and ask me questions and all this. And then the next day after the show, I think it was Bob Timmers was there with a he wanted me to come over to the Rockabilly Hall of Fame table and sign, nice guy. So, I went over and I got photographs with me, not real professional, but the ones that Larry had somebody print out. So I'm sitting there at the autograph table talking, and Tom England sends one of his people down and says, "Tom wants you to come upstairs and sing 3 or 4 songs." I should have said, you could tell Tom England that I said, but anyway, I said, no. I said, how much is he paying me? He said, oh, nothing, he just wants you. I said, well, I'm not doing it. So I didn't do it. And then, so anyway, I've been back to Vegas 4 times. Mike went with me the last time. So Tom finally, I guess, decided that I try to be a nice guy. And, I don't like people pulling on me and putting somebody else down. And I met lifetime friends in Vegas. One person I met was a couple named Dave and Julie. And I'm sitting at the autograph table. I got my wife with me, and that's one of the shows that she went with me. She went with me that one, and the first time I went to England, she went. Other than that, she's not in. I've been married ever since I was young. We got married young. I've been married 74 years, and she had enough of the music thing when I was young because the wives all used to come on Saturday night. The wives would all come. But when my kids, I got 3 kids, when they started growing up, I got out of the music business mainly because of that and because of my job. So anyway, the lounge was totally full of people, and so the fire marshal shut the door, and then I met this couple, Dave and Julie. So she comes over, I'm sitting, gives me a big smooch. I'm like, kind of. She said, "What size are you?" And I said, "A medium." And that kind of didn't go much farther than that. And then later on, she come back and said, "The reason I asked you that, I'm a seamstress, so I'm going to make you a shirt." So I go to my first show to England was Hemsby, and my Rock Crazy Baby CD had come out. So I get over there, and one of the guys that was involved, his name is Dave Travis, with the record company. We all had a little meeting in the lounge. We stayed at this hotel, and he said, "We're going to sell your CDs." We are. So the Dave Travis, which was involved with the record company, and the owner, the promoter's wife, said they would take care of my CDs. Well, I done the show, and I was in the autograph line 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours, and I had a leather jacket with me, and I wanted to see Eddie Clearwater because we got to know, we all stayed at the same hotel, so Eddie Clearwater was one of the people that was on the show. So I got to know him, and so I wanted to see his show. So I left that leather jacket hanging over the back of a chair. So the next morning at breakfast, I was saying to Willie Jeffers, I left my jacket, and he said, "Oh, Art, that jacket's gone. It's good. You'll never see that jacket again." So I had a business card in the side pocket. So my friend Bill Stewart, before we got done eating, he comes with my jacket. And so I figured that nobody wanted to steal Arnetta's jacket because they probably looked in the side pocket and seen my name there. So his wife was named Varric. So every time I played Hemsby, she would take my merchandise, set it all up for me, and all I would do would sign and take pictures with people. And one time and this, I'm not bragging, this is just a fact. They had booked called the Tennessee Three, and the guy, I forget his name, but he played lead guitar for Johnny Cash after Luther had passed away. I didn't know that at the time, but he had a couple girl singers. So, but I noticed at the autograph line, they were the headliners. You know, I was booked. I got a book. I got Hemsby books for every show, and you know, I'll give you. I don't have any need for all this stuff. My kids have got very little interest in it, so that's one of the things that I'll give you. And so I noticed that the autograph line, they was booked as the headliners. They had very few people. So when my autograph line was, you know, maybe an hour plus, and I said to Varric, I said, she said, "You're Art Adams." So I don't know what that meant. One of the things that, you know, Mike can attest, I'm nice to everybody. I probably give away more photographs than I've sold, because I don't ever charge. When we did one show I'm talking too much on one subject, Anna.
Continue, you're fine.
When we did France, Mike can tell you, Mike was taking money, and all I was doing was signing, right, Mike? All I was doing was signing. And I think it was maybe, an hour and a half? Probably an hour and a half. And it's that way every time I go to England. There's a lot of rockabilly guys that I've got to meet, you know, since I got back in. I didn't have any idea who they were, because when you quit music in 1987 or 6, I think, and you have no involvement in it, and you got a business to run, you got family, you got kids to raise, and you got house payments to make and all that. So you get out of it and you stay out of it. But my friend Larry Golson would have these reunions. So one day he calls me up and he said, "Art, you never would come to any of my reunions, so this is probably going to be my last one. Would you come and perform?" And I said, "Okay." So I had somebody to run 100 or so CDs with some songs I went and recorded. So Kathy Morse, which is a good friend, she's a violin player, and she did the announcing and everything. So I had the same guys that played when I went to Vegas. The place around, it was the Fountain Square Theater. It was probably, I think it hosts about 400 people. I was the only one that sold a CD. I sold all the CDs I had. Signed a lot of autographs. And so, you know, it's, like I said, I've met a lot of the rockabilly since I got back. Johnny Powers has passed away. Lou Williams. Lou used to send me a Christmas ornament every year. I did shows with most all of them, and unfortunately Gene Summers has passed away. He and I used to talk quite a bit, but that's how I got the Rockabilly Hall of Fame.
Very good. You've answered a lot of my questions without the prompts, which is great. Can you talk a little bit more about the break in your career? You said you stopped around 1980.
Not what?
The break in your career. So you stopped around 1986, and then when did you come back? And what was it that brought you back into music?
What was it brought me back in music? Well, when I the only reason, first of all, the only reason I got back into music for a short period of time, because me and two other guys, I was general manager for ARA Service, and they talked me into going into business. And we started out with a $100 rented office and 3 briefcases. And I was making, in 1963, I was making $400 a week as a manager and free insurance. So my wife was working at RCI, but I needed money. So I formed a band and got back into music in the latter part of '63. And it was not a rockabilly band, it was a rock and roll band. A saxophone and electric bass, and guys like name was Paul Hutchison, Jack Scott on guitar, one of the best guitar players that I ever heard play with me, and Harvey Groh on drums, and Gary Thaxton on bass. So we were working at a little club in Lawrence called Fortress, and it was packed. So the guy, we went out there and rehearsed, and we hadn't played together for a while. So the guy said, "Well, how are you right now?" Well, he had drums on it. I said, "No, I'll give these guys a notice." So he actually enlarged the place, but we quit him a couple times because we wanted more money, because we knew the place. So anyway, we had got this vending machine, that refrigerator, and we wanted to sell sandwiches. So we'd hired this lady to make us sandwiches, and she wasn't doing a very good job. So one day, there was 3 of us that owned the company. So the 3 of it, one of the guys said, "Well, I know a guy who owns a club out in Lawrence, and he'll make us sandwiches." So anyway, we meet up with him. His name is Ed Jewell. Ed Jewell. So we got to talking, and one of my cohorts told him I was playing music. He said, "Where?" So I told him. So he come down, and then he come and told me, he said, "Art, why don't you come down and play at my place?" I said, "Well, it's a supper club, and you got a bunch of elderly people there." And he said, so we got to talking, and we negotiated back in 1963, and this is the gospel. He paid us $30 a night each, and he told me I could have 2 saxophone players if I wanted, because he liked another saxophone player that sat in with us. So we got to talking. I said, "Well, you have to change the name to it." So I think he did some research about a club in New York called the Hungry Eye. So he called the club the Hungry Eye. So I said, "Ed, here's another deal we can work, 'cause I need money." And I said, $30 a night is more than I'm making here. And then the guy that owned the Fortress, we left him one time and went to the Town and Country over on Keystone, and he finally upped the money, and we come back. So I said, "Here's what I'll recommend. If the couples come in, you don't charge them. If the girls come in, you don't charge them. But if the guys come in by themselves, you charge them $1, and we'll split that." He thought that was a great idea. I said, "You don't charge the girls, you don't charge the couples, because they're bringing the girls." And then so anyway, I don't remember how much we made at that, but I do remember that back at that time, everything coming in, because I'll be honest, I was having difficulties making my house payment until I started back in the music. So was that the question you asked me?
Yes. And so then that's when you got back into music and you just continued with music at that point.
Well, the only reason I got back into music was, I guess I had sold my business. I was, I guess what you call retired. I was financially okay at the time, and I always wanted to play Vegas, so I guess that Tom Ingram, eventually between the phone calls, I decided to go ahead and go on out there once he agreed to my terms and not his. So after I got back into music, I did that show. One day, a friend that I had seen, I think maybe close to 40 years, his name was Jerry Lee Williams. You know, he's a musician. Mike knows him. And he calls me up and said, "There's a DJ that wants your phone number. Is it okay if I give it to him?" And I said, "It's in the book." It's been the same phone number for years. So anyway, DJ's name was Rich Hines. And he calls me up. We set up a breakfast meeting. Mike Strauss here and several other musicians showed up. And back then I was in good physical shape and I was bowling. I was a good bowler, not bragging, 185 average. I was bowling in a senior traveling league, scratch league. So Mike said, we're playing or rehearsing something. Why don't you come up? And I said, well, I'm bowling, that night. So Mike is, not to make a long story short, Mike is responsible for me having a band or being in a band, because he put the band together. I didn't, and fortunately he put a good one together. So as far as me doing shows, it just snowballed, and people were offering me money to come to these places. And when I was in the military, I'd been to Japan, and but it's a different story. So I always wanted to go, and the first time we went to England, like I said, my good friend Bill Stewart, which he lives in Florida now, his wife and my wife all wanted to go. So I'll tell you that story. So we, of course, with Willie Jeffers, he paid my way, but hotel. So anyway, he didn't pay their way. He took back then their airfares were not all that expensive, so he took their fee out of the money he paid. But hotel was free, and he back in 2003 was the first time I went to Hemsby. He paid me like $2,000. That's a pretty nice chunk of change. Back then, plus the hotel being free. So we rented a hotel, American style hotel in London after the show. So after the show, at the hotel, I went up to the desk and I said, I'd like to have a guide, but I don't want to go with a tour. He said, I got just the right guy for you. This is a story. His name is Harry. He's a retired history teacher. He's expensive. So anyway, Harry come and we met up with him, and we hired him for 8 hours for $300. He took us to Westminster Abbey. He took us to see the crown jewels and all the swords and everything with all the jewels on them. He took us back then. They had this guy up in I forget what he was, up in something or other there in London. He took us to see the changing of the guard, the bobbies. He took us to show us where Eisenhower residence was. 8 hours he took us to all over the place, and this is the true story. We went to, I said, I want to see one of your pubs, because I just heard about the pubs. So we go to this little pub. It's small, And there was one table there, but it was packed had several guys at it, and they got up and said, you guys have our table. So I thought that was real nice of them, and so I said I needed to go to the men's room. So I go to the men's room. There's a guy in there, and then I get ready to leave. He said, "Hey, are you Art Adams?" I thought, "What?" A guy I'd never seen before. He said, "Oh, we listen to your song." I said, "Yeah, I am." So anyway, that was my first trip to Hemsby. 1 out of 6.
And you're very popular in Europe, probably more so than here.
More so than here, yeah. And the people, the DJs I've met, they said we've been playing your songs, and this is not a brag, but you could find it on Facebook. Some DJ put up that Indian Joe was the best song that's ever been recorded. The reason we come up with Indian Joe was when I was young. I'm from the South. They had these cigar stores, and they had these wooden Indians standing out in front, and it had nothing to do with Hank Williams' Kalijah. Nothing to do with it. It was our own idea. Nothing to do with that. And then people found out from my cousin, which has passed away now, my first cousin, my mother's sister's son. He knows that we have some Cherokee blood in us. So he got involved in it. He went to powwows and all that. But it had nothing to do with me having a little bit of Indian blood. I don't know how much we got, but I know we have a little Cherokee Indian blood in it. Had nothing to do with me writing Indian Joe. In fact, I wasn't the originator of it. Our drummer, Benny Abbott, which K.Y. Curley we call him, he was 12 miles from where I was born in Carrollton, Kentucky. He was born right across the river from Madison, Indiana. So he was actually the originator that come up with the idea of Indian Joe. Now, don't tell me how we come up with it. As far as She Don't Live Here No More, I have no idea how we come. I just know that the only song that when Dancing Dial, when we do teen dances back then, we did a lot of teen dances and we had a young girl. Her name was Betty Stone, and she wanted to start a fan club for us. Well, her and another girl, which went to Manual High School, which started the Art Adams fan club. So Betty would always be up there dancing. So anyway, she said one time, "Why don't you write a song about me?" So I put her name on it with mine, but I wrote the song. She didn't write the song. So anyway, so that's how Dancing Dial come about. Rock Crazy Baby, there was a young guy named Bob Jones. You might probably Robert, but I called him Bob. One day he was trying to be a musician, but he said, "I got this song," and he started singing it. Washing machine broke and she couldn't wash her clothes, so she jumped right in and washed her with her toes. So I said, "Bobby, I'll take that song and write it." So that's how Rock Crazy Baby come about. She Don't Live Here No More, I think, was basically an idea of K.Y. Curley, our drummer. I don't know. I had a hand in writing them all, so I don't know. I put Betty's name on. I didn't think anything about royalties back then and all that stuff. So I had, when I was young, my younger sister, my wife's sister, and my wife, I had a couple country songs. One was called "She's from Tennessee." My wife's from Tennessee, but it had nothing to do with that. So I forget what the other one was, but I drove down to Memphis, and I just walked right in, and the lady was sitting there, and she said, "I see you got." I said, "Is Sam here?" She said, "You mean Mr. Phillips?" I didn't mean any disrespect by it, but anyway. So she said, "No, Sam's not here, but Jack Clement is. He'll." She said, "What's that you did? Got a tape?" And I said, "Yeah." So I went back, and I've been back. We've been back to Sun since then. They recorded 16 songs, places the same as it was back then. So Jack Clement, which I made a terrible mistake because he turned out to be one of the biggest promoters in the country music. He discovered Charlie Pride and many other people. So he said, "I'll tell you what I told Johnny Cash. Go back and do this and do that with your songs." But it was 700 miles from where I lived, and I got a speed ticket on the way back. You know, he said I was running 90 miles an hour, and I think I had $35 that took me in front of a justice peace, and they took what that money I had. So I never went back. And the end of that story, I was telling Mike the same story, and that's how I wound up writing Memphis Dream, because I told Mike the story. He said, "Why don't you write a song about it?" So the 4-song EP we got out called Memphis Dream, that's the reason that I wrote Memphis Dream, because Mike suggested that I write a story about it. So I didn't go back to Sun. I think if I had, I would have fit right in, because, you know, it was just a simple place. It's the same, well, at least it was when we was there, 2016, same then. Now, so we recorded 16 songs, and we released only 4 of them so far.
So far. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Can you talk about maybe some of your earliest influences and how you first got into music?
My early what?
Your earliest influences in music and how you first got into music?
Well, I've been singing all my life. I used to get up, I lived on a farm, used to get up in a hayloft and with a broomstick and pretend I was on a Grand Ole Opry. And my mom had bought me a cowboy shirt. Well, no, she bought me a cowboy hat and made me a cowboy shirt. And my dad sold some hogs and bought me a riding horse. So I was trying to be a cowboy. And Mom had bought me a banjo, I don't know why. I plucked around on it for a while and trying to give it up, and I was listening to Hank Williams, and I said, well, you know. So anyway, my Mom and Dad unfortunately moved to the city because my dad's brother, my dad was a carpenter and a farmer. My dad's brother had a construction business in Beech Grove, Indiana, so Dad first moved to Brown County, and that's where I met Laddie Moore at the Brown County Jamboree. So my sister married a guy named Dave Logston, and he played guitar, and so he taught me a lot. We played every night, so he taught me a lot of guitar, lot. That I used to be a pretty good guitar player for rhythm. I never tried to play lead because I wanted to be a singer. So he showed me, I know so many ways to make one chord that, you know, I know there's only, I think, 7 basic chords, but he showed me so many different ways to make the same chord. And he was an excellent guitar player, excellent. And so he was my first guitar player. And we formed a country band called Art Adams and the Country Drifters. And then I called it the Country Drifters because Hank Williams called his band drifting cowboys. So that's why I call them country drifters. So anyway, Dave wanted to play more country, so he finally left me, and that's when I formed the Rhythm Knights, which I thought was one of the greatest bands back then, was in Indianapolis. In fact, my friend Laddie Moore was playing 6 nights a week because that's all he did. Of course, I had a job and I was playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I went to see Laddie one Monday night, and he come over talking to me, and he said, "Hey, Art," he said, "I heard you got a good band." I said, "Yeah, I'm pretty proud of them." So he said, "I'm going to take off Thursday night and come over and listen to it." So he come over, and the guitar players, some of the musicians in town will call them guitar terrorizers. And here's the way that come about. When I decided to form, I didn't know anything about rockabilly. I didn't even know the word. I just decided to form a band with some up-tempo to it because I like to sing the country song, but I also like to sing the up-tempo songs because that's what the crowd was liking. So my brother-in-law was still playing guitar for me. So I heard about a guy named Roy Robinette. So I called his wife one Saturday morning. She said, "Well, he's working." And I said, "Well, where's he work?" So she told me where he worked, and that was in Franklin, Indiana. So I go down there where he works. I went to his job. So I asked the lady, I said, could you call Roy, could I speak to Roy Robinette? She said, "Sure." So she had to come up. So I'm explaining to Roy because what I had in mind. So Roy played what Mike might have a different term, but what I call straight. So when my brother-in-law left me, I heard about another kid named Eddie Weil, and he played a big red Gretsch, and Chet Atkins was his idol. But he would get down on what I call doing a lot of noodling on the fine, playing all kind of jazz licks and stuff. But when he would do that, it was awesome because Roy would jump up on the bass strings and walk those strings. And then, of course, I had an excellent drummer, and our bass player was named Harold Knight. Harold was also a singer. He also played guitar, and he could triple slap the bass, just like Mike. He didn't spin the bass like Mike. So I went to grade school with him. So, and then the drummer, of course, was Benny Abbott, K.Y. Curley. And then, so that's how the Rhythm Knights come about. So 2 lead guitars, one of the best drummers in the city at the time, and one of the best bass players. K.Y. was a good singer and a good rhythm guitar player. Everybody in the band sang except Eddie Weil. And he could play jazz notes and stuff, and it worked so good. If you listen to my songs, like, is it She Don't Live Here No More, Mike, where you could hear a lot Eddie playing jazz licks? Indian Joe, yeah. You could hear him play that. So, I just, I'm not a great musician, but I know how to put things together what people like. And that tell you a story?
That tells it. Okay, tell us about your guitar.
Well, I had I'm trying to think of the name of that. It's a Harmony. I think a Susan Roebuck guitar. Yeah, Harmony guitar. So back then, the only music store that I knew of was 1951 was down on Ohio Street called Louis Lorenz. And Louis is a little Jewish guy, and he was a good guy because I got a couple musicians from him, suggested from him one time. So I'm down there and I'm looking, and I see this Martin D28, and I told Louis, I said, I want to buy that guitar. He said, oh, you can't afford that guitar. So he says, buy this guitar. It's another something. I said, no, I want this guitar. It was $300 in 1951. That's a pretty good chunk of change, isn't it? So, him being a Jewish guy and me being a country guy with being able to talk to people, I said, how about me paying you $30 a week until I pay for it? He finally said, okay. So anyway, I bought my D28 Martin for $300, paid $30 a week in 1951. I don't remember exactly what month, but I got drafted in. I joined the military when I was 16, real quick. Well, they found out my age after I'd served, but they didn't do anything bad to me. They didn't court-martial, but they released me until I become old enough. So in 1952, they called me back right at the height of when I was, thought I was going to do something with music. So when Louis found out that I went in the military, he comes to our apartment, my wife, and he said, one of the musicians will probably come and borrow your guitar, so let me keep it till Art gets back. My wife wouldn't hear it. She said, I'll pay you whatever, $30 a week. So she finished paying my guitar off. And lo and behold, he was right, because my wife told me shortly after Louis come, there was a musician that I knew pretty well, which actually I got back in, was one of the first guys that got back into music, playing a little bluegrass. His name was Shorty Sargent. And he come and wanted to borrow my guitar. My wife wouldn't have it. So Louis was right, somebody wanted, so she paid my guitar off, and then said, when I got out of the military, I had went to grade school with a kid named Bobby Robert Mullenix. Well, his brother was a trumpet player for I don't know what to call the band here in Indianapolis. Indianapolis used to have a big band that played, I don't know what they call it, but his brother was a trumpet player. Bobby wasn't a musician, so Bobby said to me one day, he was an artist, and he said, Art, if you let me have your guitar for about 2 or 3 days, I'll paint your name on it. A lot of people ask me, is that a template? I said, no, he hand painted it. So he knew he had the music notes from his brother being a musician. So that's how I got the guitar. That's how my name got on it. And it's been all over the world.
So
some people want to see my guitar more than they want to see me.
Okay, so you've played all over the world. You're from Indiana, and you didn't really realize how much your popularity had grown in that off time until you came back and you were signing all these autographs. I'm kind of curious, what is your perception of the music scene and how it's evolved over the years?
Well, first of all, I had no idea, that my songs had got that popular. No idea. It was unbelievable to me. And what my perception of the rockabilly today? Well, it isn't, in my opinion, as good as it was back then, if you want pure clean rockabilly music. My friend Bloodshot Bill, which is also a friend, they call him rockabilly, but he's not rockabilly. In fact, the matter, I got him booked at Hemsby. They didn't like him because he's. But there is the guys that back in the 50s that I did shows with, like Johnny Powers, they still were playing original rockabilly. My dear friend, one of the best friends that I met in Europe was Jan Swanson. He plays rockabilly. He loves us, all of us guys. He's from Sweden. I've been to Sweden, I don't know how many times. When I met him in Green Bay, and I got home in a couple of days, my wife said, "There's some foreign guy foreign accent wanting to talk to you. Called you a couple of times." So called him, and he wanted to book me over there, and I said, "Well, you know, I don't have any idea what's going on." So the first time I went to Sweden, we did all these shows, and we did one show. My hair wasn't gray back then, and it was quite a bit longer, and they said that I'd do more people than Jerry Lee Lewis, and it was I can't remember the name of the town, but the girls are coming up wanting to cut clips of my hair off. So there was a band when I got off the stage. There was a band from England. Was supposed to be the headliners, I guess. I don't know. So there were people all surrounding me when in the room backstage, and the lady singer with the band from England come back and said, "They want Art out front." So I had this CD that one of my music friends had produced several songs on it. It wasn't a record company, but it was he had, and I had a bunch of pictures that his wife had reproduced of me. So I had these CDs and that, and I go out to the autograph table. Jan, the girl singer, and the promoter was all taking care of selling my stuff, and all I was doing was signing things. So when we got done, Jan's kind of a funny guy, you know. He's trying to learn all this. He asked me about our words, you know, that what's this mean? What's this mean? He got a little book, you know. So they had free food, free drinks, and everything. So we go back in the hotel room, and John said, "How much?" So that was 2000, latter part of 2003, over $800 worth of merchandise or so. Oh, my friend had made some T-shirts, simple T-shirts with pictures on. So is that the question you asked me?
That's good, yeah.
Is that good? So anyway, I have played, let me tell you about, played Denmark, Finland. One year I went over, Jan booked me over Sweden, and we had this big show, and then another couple shows, and one of the promoters said, "I want to book a show at this club here, Auto Club," because I was, you know, and we were staying in these cabins. So he goes. I said, I had Tim Gibson was with me, our guitar player. So he finds a drummer, a bass player, and all this around noon, and he books a show in this Auto Club. place was packed. And the kid that played the drums was 20 years old, but he was a good drummer. And then, of course, Tim played guitar, and then one of the guys that is in Jan's band played guitar. So when we got finished, this young kid was going with us, and he was selling my merchandise. I couldn't believe it. I just sold all this merchandise this other place. He sold $300 worth of merchandise. Back then, I had a lot of merchandise. I don't know if it was all professional or some of the stuff that we put together. When the first show I did in France, they reproduced the show and made a DVD out of it. I'll give you that. It's got a lot of good music on it. I may only have one copy, but they sold it. But it's got a really nice artwork on it. But so I don't know if that's a question you asked me. I think I had. But anyway, I've been to Denmark, Sweden. But anyway, when we did a show about almost every night. So the last show we done was going to be in Finland. So we get on a ship, and we go to Finland. It was in the wintertime. We get to Finland. Believe it or not, they put me up in a hotel suite, but the snow was high in your car. I mean, it was really, and it was cold here, but it was really cold in Finland. And my friend Dick Dickerson was just telling me he was in Finland, talking about how cold it was, and it is extremely, extremely cold over there. So, like I said, we did that tour. We started out, we did Denmark, several shows in Sweden, and then we went from Sweden to Denmark, and then I flew home from Denmark. And the funniest part about that show was we did this car show somewhere in Sweden. I can't remember the names of them, but Jan, they were getting to go on, but Jan brought the Swedish money up. He was counting how much money I had. It was a lot of money. And so it was a small room. They had a couple of little beds in it. Well, when they left, they locked the door. I'm in this room by myself with the door locked. And it was one of the doors locked from outside. I didn't have anything, and I'll be honest, I'm getting paranoid. And so I could hear them playing. So they finally come and unlocked the door. I said, man, they were laughing about it. I said, it's not funny, but that was the downside of that tour.
Wow. So you've really played quite a bit, and you're even playing currently. So can you talk about you have a birthday coming up?
I've done. I'll be honest. I've done a lot of shows in Europe where I went by myself. Well, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't do it because it's too lonesome. One time I went over to Europe, England, to do a show with these guys. It was a club, and called the Red Rose Club, and they put me in this place that was like a military day room. They had a little lounge where they had no food there, but they brought in some food, and they had one major bathroom, and along the sides they had like a toilet and a sink. It was the most loneliest place, and I didn't have a cell phone back then. It was before cell phones. I'm looking for Kleenex, but I guess I don't have one. But anyway, so I did a lot of shows by myself, went by myself, that I wish I hadn't. And some were fun when we done shows, Mike and Tim, and we together it's fun, you know. But yeah, I did a lot of shows.
I want you to tell us about the birthday show you've got coming up. You have a birthday coming. You're still
Well,
playing today, so
for the last 3 years, we've been doing a live stream birthday show at Center Stage Vintage Guitar Music Store. Our friend Kevin Hefferman owns it, and so we just did a show up there. How long ago was that been?
December 28th.
When?
December 28th.
September 20th.
December.
September. Yeah, because Kevin asked if we'd do one in the middle. So this will be, I believe, a third birthday show, and it's going to be February the 8th, and it's going to be at Center Stage Vintage Guitars live stream all over the world. It'll be my 93rd birthday.
wow. I hope I get to go.
Yeah, you've been there.
I've been, okay. I think unless you've got any other stories you want to share, I mean, is there anything else you want to tell us about your life?
Well, I've been, I'd say, blessed. I was born in Locust, Kentucky, in a log cabin. I had pneumonia when I was 2 years old. Got over that. My mom and dad, for some reason, I guess, moved to Beech Grove, Indiana, and because my dad, I said, was a carpenter. And then we later moved to Brown County, which was the happiest days of my childhood. I was going to grade school, had this riding horse I was telling you about, singing. I was going over to Morgantown, singing with some guys, and I remember they would want me to form a band with them. My parents moved to Indianapolis. They divorced when I was 15. I don't know if you want it, it's not. I've been on my own since I was 15 years old. I had a $10 sleeping room when I met my wife. I was a shipping clerk at a bag company. They made shopping bags. About 5 or 6 guys in the shipping department, 90% women. I didn't know her at the factory. It was on Nelson Street, called Dubler's Shopping Bag. But I had a sleeping room over a little grill in Fountain Square. And I'd go in and I paid, the lady's name was Loretta Barber. I paid her $10 a week. I'd go off work and I'd go in and play the pinball machine. And then I'd sit down, and maybe chat with some of my friends that come in, and a couple of them were kids that I grew up with in Brown County, and Carlos Walter, which was a guitar player, brother. So we would sing and try to come up with some funny songs. Well, I'm sitting there probably, I don't know if I was having a Coke or eating a hamburger, but my future wife come in and she said something to me. I don't know what it was, but something probably happened at work, and she asked me something about that. So I can't remember what it was. So anyway, one of my buddies and her went out to Riverside Park they had back then, and we took a ride in a Lupo plane, which young. She didn't like it, but of course I liked it. Turn you upside down, up at a Lupo plane. So anyway, the night was over, and I took her home, and for all I knew, it was her parents' home. I had no idea who she was. I didn't ask her any questions. So after I met up with her again, we got to talking, found out she was from Tennessee, and she had come up here with her boyfriend. So that was another story. So I didn't take long to get rid of him. Back then, I boxed in a boys' club, and I was pretty good. So he didn't want to mess with me. So we met May of 1950, and got married in February the 3rd of 1951. So I've been blessed. When I went to work for ARA as a route driver, it was called Howard Vending Service back then. You don't have to all this, but I'll tell you how I've been blessed. I was working there for a short time, and one day the guy that interviewed me was a retired major in the military. And of course, I had served 20 months in Korea, and I was still in the military because I had 8 years to do back then. So it might have been the only reason he hired me, I don't know. But he told me, "You're overqualified to be a route driver." I said, "Well, I don't know about that." So after I was working there about a couple of weeks, they asked me to be a supervisor. So I said, "Does it pay more money?" And they said, "Yeah, it did." So I become a supervisor, and then I escalated on up to a general manager at ARA. So then I was blessed at that. So I was blessed to meet my wife under very unusual circumstances. I just, young kid, sitting there, probably not knowing what the next step was going to be. $10 sleeper room. Mom and Dad divorced. Mom married some guy I couldn't stand. Dad married some lady that at least she took care of the kids, but I mean, Lord, I couldn't stand either one of them. So when I went back, when they called me back in the military, I was taking my training at Indian Gap, Pennsylvania, and there was 400 men in my company. And when you go out in the field, they always leave one soldier in the barracks, they call barracks orderly, mainly to shine the fire extinguishers and stuff like that. So one day I was a barracks orderly, and you have a lieutenant, then you have a first lieutenant, and then you have a captain and a colonel on up. So my lieutenant said, "Adams, I want to talk to you." So I thought maybe I might be in trouble. He said, but anyway, long story short, they wanted me to go to officer school. I said, I never graduated from finished the 8th grade. He said, "You're the only man that's qualified." your IQ is 133. They give you these, what I call stupid tests. You pull these little things together, make a match up, ask you what the opposite of blue is. But the Morse code thing was, I just pecked on it, back then we had. But anyway, so stupid me, I just said I wanted to go with the guys I come in with. Well, to end that story, I didn't get to go with any of them. So anyway, maybe a week went by, but the company commander called me over. And he's really upset when I told him no, because I didn't. He said, what do you want to be, just a rifleman? I actually said, no, I just want to do my time and get back to music. But he said, it'll keep you out of Korea. So, okay, that's over. So then the next time, the colonel was a huge guy, big, tall. When he spoke, he roared. So he was the final guy I talked to, and I turned him down. So I got to know this kid from real well, named Tony Calderon, and he was in another, went in the same time I did, but he was in another company. So they shipped everybody out in my company except me. So I've never been a drinker or a smoker, but I'm hanging around and I'm asking, go over to BOQ, we'll get your orders. So I've been 3 days, and so I go over to PX. So I try one of them 3-2 beers, and in walks Tony. I said, what are you doing here? He said, oh, what are you doing here? So anyway, the next day or two thing, they actually took me and Tony. We didn't. I thought we were going to get to go together. We didn't. He went to one place, I went. They took me out of the infantry and put me in Ordnance Corps, which is advanced. So, have I been blessed? Yes. If we left 54,000 people in Korea. I spent 20 months in that hellhole. It was cold in the winter, 50 degrees below zero without a windshield. You couldn't touch anything, your rifle barrel. I ate and slept with a loaded weapon for 20 months, almost 20 months. I slept in a tent in the wintertime with my clothes on. You never undressed. You always had kept your clothes on, your rifle with you. Is that fun? I got used to it. Got used to it. You get used to it. I had it better than some of the guys I went in with. None of them were killed, fortunately. I'm talking about the guys I met at the depot. I'm fortunate. I've almost 20 months. My captain, I was a sergeant first class at the time. They wanted me to be an officer, but I would have to transfer. I was over 25 men. I didn't want to leave. I got called up to BOQ looking at a bird colonel. You talk about being lucky? He said, Sergeant Adams, we're taking you to headquarters. I said, sir, no disrespect, but I have a young wife at home and I haven't seen for almost 2 years. I'd like to go home. He said, I could order you, but I won't. So I'd been home a short time. I can't remember how long. And I got my orders to go to Vietnam. So I go down to depot or whatever, induction center, and just talking to a sergeant. And I said, is there an officer here? He said, why? I said, well, because, blah, blah, blah. he said, well, you ain't going to get out of this. And so anyway, I forget what the grade the officer was, but I told him my story, how many months I served in Korea. And I told him I didn't feel like that if I went to Vietnam, I'd ever come back. So I said, I think I've had enough. And so he said, Sergeant, you know how it is. So I left there thinking, I still got the orders, I'll show them to you. Probably don't want them here, do you? Kids, I kept them. And 2 weeks later, I got a letter they'd rescinded them. I didn't beg, I just told the truth. The band I got now is called the Artaz Band. Have I been blessed? I've been blessed. I was rabbit hunting one day. I'm 12 years old, 14, something like that. On the farm, you know, you kids used to, we had shotguns. Dad always told me don't shoot a rabbit sitting. But I'm a kid. So I knew where this rabbit was sitting. So I'm going to sneak up on this rabbit. So I had a single barrel shotgun my grandfather had given me, loaded, and had the hammer cocked down by my foot. I'm almost to where this rabbit's at, and the shotgun caught a vine. It blew a hole in the ground about that big around. Missed my foot. Have I been blessed? 20 months in Korea, no scratches. No bass much, but you know, the Wildest Band, my friend Mike Strauss, Tim Gibson, Tom Woodard, Mark Cutsinger, all these accolades or whatever you call them, my songs, 4 songs that I recorded that's played all over the world. Yeah, I've been blessed. A wonderful wife, 3 wonderful children. That's great grandkids, great grandkids. Yeah, I've been blessed. I could have give up and just been a bum when Mom and Dad divorced. But I didn't. I had a lot of jobs that were hard. I was 16 years old working at a place called American Foundry. Working in sand up to my ankles, carrying these heavy sand things that you, something, I don't know what it was. And, but I needed a job, so I stuck with it. And then I got that job at this, called the shopping bag. And I'm probably the youngest, maybe the youngest of the guys in the shipping department. But the manager was named, he was an ex-colonel in the military. His name was Mounty, Colonel Mounty. He liked me. I don't know why, but he called me in his office. He said, you want to be shipping clerk, Arthur? I said, pay more? 72 cents an hour, go back then. Why did he pick me? I'm probably the youngest guy, maybe close to it. I know this way over. I don't know why. I worked when ARA. They wanted me to be. I was general manager. I didn't graduate from grade school. Why me? Why me? I was over all the state of Indiana. Have I made mistakes? Yes. One mistake I made was quitting ARA because the guys that left there with a good pension and all that. Did I build a good vending food service? Mike was asking the other day, did I have machines in service station? No, we were what we call industrial vending. And the way I built the company was I knew this guy in Tennessee that built cabinets and stuff. And I designed many food lines. I could show them to you. Where the companies weren't big enough for a full cafeteria, so one person could take care of it. We sold salads and stuff by weight, and then so we was able to get the factories by building these little mini food lines. We had a salad bar and all that. So I come up with that idea. And you know, I'm not bragging because I can show you pictures of all this, you know. If I made mistakes, one of the biggest mistakes I ever made, which my wife still tells me about, when we sold the business, I got a chunk of money. I don't want to tell you how much, but it was a chunk of money. So all my kids was working for me at the time, the 3 kids. So I gave each one of them a chunk of change. So I had more money than I ever thought I'd ever see in my life. But I invested my money with an insurance man, which was my insurance guy, and he, at the time, named Bill Rice. I was doing fine, but 9/11 hit. You don't want to know how much money I lost. You want me to tell you? Over 200 grand. So my wife sometimes won't let me forget it. But as they say down home, I'm still not picking manure with the chickens. I'm still doing all right. I got a good financial advisor now, but one of my friends was a financial advisor. He told me, I told you not to go with an insurance man. If I've been blessed, I not only have traveled the world in music, I had a friend that's passed away now who worked for American Airlines. He advanced up from working at the airport to be just taking care of business people in Carmel. That's all he booked. And I coached his son in Little League. I coached Little League for 13 years. I never played baseball, but I won championships. Have I been blessed? How did I win? I told the kids, call me Art, our coach. Don't call me Mr. Adams. And I'll teach you what I know, and then you play what you know. So we won championships. Most every year. I coached for 13 years. I assistant coached basketball. I never played basketball. I never played basketball. So have I been blessed? Yes. I feel like that most people with my limited education, but I got what down home we call common sense. I know what 2 and 2 is, you know. I might not be able to, what they say down home, cipher this or cipher that. But one time with ARA Services, we had these guys up in Philadelphia, college graduates. Now, I have nothing against college graduates. At the vending at ARA, we had all of IU in Bloomington. We had all Purdue, and I would go in there and I would think to myself, I would just love, to if I could have went through. But one day, they'd send these guys in, and they had some of the most stupidest ideas you ever heard of. So I would get up and rebut them. I'll tell you this story real quick. We had cup drink machines which had different tanks with different flavors. One time a guy come in and said, well, we're going to take the orange and we're going to put something in it, we're going to call it Tutti Frutti. We're going to do this, going to do that. Raise your hand up. Hey, first of all, no drink machine sells the same amount. Secondly, the Board of Health would never let us do that. So it's a dumb idea. So the final story with my ARA was that one day I got this guy call me. He said, is it true that, your education? I said, well, what are you talking about? He said, yeah. I said, yeah, it's true. So anyway, he said, well, and anyway, long end of that story, I wound up taking a Alexander Hamilton. Nowadays it'd be online. It was a college course. Back then you fill out the paperwork and you mailed it in. Just because with my position, one of the big shots didn't think should have that position because I didn't have degrees and stuff. So have I been blessed? Oh yeah, I've been blessed. I'm still alive. I've got some medical issues now. Unfortunately, the first PET scan I had showed no cancer. Second one showed that cancer come back. So I'm back on immune therapy treatments. So I don't know how that's going to work out. I got some other issues, but I'm 93. Still got this great band, but I guess I didn't know if I could get through this today or not, but looks like I did. So, anything else?
I mean, we're blessed to have you too, and thanks for your service.
Blessed
That's
to be here.
huge, and I appreciate you sharing all of that. Your legacy will live on. I'm really happy that we had the chance to interview today with you. This oral history project is going to continue through this year and hopefully on into next year and beyond.
I appreciate you asking me to do it, Katie. I appreciate it.
Yep.